Mambo Vipi, what's happening? My name is Anyiko, Owoko, and I am a lover of arts, culture, and everything African. And here, we grant you front row access to your favorite celebrities, creators, the biggest personalities, and industry experts. Come with me. You're now a VIP. Here's why you need to stick around for the entire episode this week.
I don't think influencers are having enough support today. I challenge the marketing agencies because essentially that's what their job is.
You as an individual, you don't want to be the one that they're always associating with terrible work because of a terrible brief. You should be able to demand. It goes back to what content are you creating and your vision as well, your vision for yourself. If you see yourself in a local setting, then you'll most likely remain in that local setting.
Hi guys, and welcome to VIP Access. I'm super excited because this week we're not just sitting in Nairobi, Kenya. Come on guys, we told you that this podcast is about the entire industry. So from time to time, we're traveling the continent, going to other industries and getting to know what works in the industry and what doesn't work. But interestingly, everywhere I go, all the industry issues are pretty much the same. So this week, I'm taking you guys to Uganda, Kampala for the second edition of AUMEX. AUMEX is a music conference in Kampala, and it stands for Amplifying Uganda's Music Industry. It's been such an amazing time to go back to Kampala for 2 years in a row, meet the industry, meet the artists, and get to discuss all these issues around how do we move the industry forward. Remember, this season of VIP Access is based on the Industry Talks events that I've been having right here in Nairobi. But like I said, from time to time, if I'm traveling out of the country or I get a chance to take this podcast to other countries, we'll definitely be doing that. So this specific episode of VIP Access will be talking about mastering the art of influencer entrepreneurship. How do we build careers through content, collaboration, and identity? And I'm honored to have two amazing individuals changing the game in Uganda and beyond. Roy Ronald Tumwizere, founder of Trroy Studios. Roy is also the National Advocacy Manager at Uganda Breweries Limited, where he leads brand advocacy for premium spirits such as Johnny Walker and Tanqueray. He's also the founder of Trroy Studios, a platform that nurtures dancers and creative talent in Uganda, blending his corporate expertise with creative entrepreneurship. Also on the podcast this week, Lucy, a Ugandan travel, food, and lifestyle visual storyteller. She's the founder of Forking Around Kampala, a culinary platform that curates dining experiences to celebrate Ugandan culture. Her work blends storytelling and strategy, helping position Africa as an aspirational destination and demonstrating how creators can build sustainable businesses from digital influence. In today's digital-first world, every content creator is a brand. Whether you're a musician, fashion creator, podcaster, or influencer, your visual identity, tone, collaborations, and content choices shape how audiences and brands see you and how you build long-term success. Ultimately, this panel will explore how content creators are becoming entrepreneurs, how to design a brand that feels authentic and strategic, and what it really takes to drive and to thrive at the intersection of culture, creativity, and commerce. Let's begin. So my name, as you have heard, is Anyiko Owoko from Nairobi, Kenya. I'm a music publicist and a curator of music as well. I also run a PR agency called Anyiko Public Relations, and we work with a lot of artists from across Africa. East Africa is our stronghold. So I'm very happy to be here in Kampala, Uganda, and at AUMEX for the second time this year. Our panel today is about the art of influencer entrepreneurship. One of the things I love about this conference is meeting artists and creatives and interacting.
And one lady was sitting close to me this morning and I asked her, are you an artist? I was like, what do you do? And she was like, I'm a songwriter. And I told her, then you're an artist. And she was like, I just never looked at myself as an artist. I think that's what we want to discuss today. We want to talk about you all as artists, you all as creators, you all as creatives, and the power and potential of making your art a business. And we are in the presence of some greatness. Some of the people sitting here, you have heard of them, you follow them, you see their content, and you're like, how did this person get into what they're doing? How do I get paid to post something? And I would like to have you introduce yourselves. How do you feel about being here today? And then we'll move over to Roy. Let's start by you guys introducing yourselves and the work that you do.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, AUMEX, for having me here today. I'd just like to say I don't do a lot of speaking events, but I've been trying to get into it more because I might have something that could benefit future creative, inspiring creative. My name is Lucy Bunyenyezi Mulira. On my socials, you probably know me as Lucy Smize. I'm into travel, food, lifestyle, showcasing the best side of Africa, showcasing anything that will get people to realize the beauty of this continent. And I'm very passionate about that. Very passionate about Uganda, very patriotic, and showcasing its beauty, how much it has to offer. But for the longest time, I just didn't feel like we bragged enough about our home country and I guess the continent at large. So yeah, I'm pretty happy to be here.
I'm Roy Ronald Tumwizere. I work at Uganda Breweries Limited, where I am the National Advocacy Manager. Now, that simply is the internal influencer of UBL to the rest of the world. So what I do mostly is focus on our higher end brands and just teach the world, show the world how to enjoy these brands and live through them. I'm also a creative. Sometimes I dance.
So I saw you dancing.
You saw me dancing? I thought I was going to tell you. So in my free time, I like to dance, and I founded a small group called the Trroy Studios. What we basically do is support passionate creatives to be their best selves, and on top of that, earn while doing it.
Fantastic. So I would just like to maybe start from the core of who you are and what you do. I know, Lucy, you spoke about it a little bit, like your passion to tell African stories, to travel around Africa, to show the world the pride you have for your country. And I want to ask you both, like, where did your creative journey start and how did you decide, like, this is going to be my brand, this is going to be my identity? Because a lot of creatives, a lot of artists, many times they struggle with their starting point. They're like, how do I reach here? And I always say, like, first of all, just start. So could you just relate to us, how did you start and how did you define your identity and voice?
So a lot of people ask me how I did start. I have the typical African parent startup background of, like, the creative industry was like an industry that's not going to monetize, you know, the traditional occupations your parents want you to have, doctor, lawyer, engineer, whatever it is. But right from the jump, I think the inception of this for me was growing up. I went to a school in Kenya, actually, that supported the arts just as much as it supported the academics. And I think even today, we're seeing a lot of this now in the education system now. They're supporting children getting into more like extracurricular activities, whether that's playing an instrument, getting into theater, doing all these extra activities that are getting them to really exercise whatever skills they have beyond academics. So for me, it was probably drama school. It was probably doing Lambda in school. I always knew I wanted to go to theater school. And my mom was like, yeah, that's all fun and games, but that's definitely not a career choice. So I did the typical thing. I did a degree for my mom. That was literally social policy, politics, and sociology.
Wow.
And at my graduation, I handed her my acceptance letter. So I applied to a film school in New York, and I handed her my acceptance letter at my graduation, like, here's your degree and here's my acceptance letter. I want to go to film school. And she literally said, yeah, let's go back home to Kampala and talk about this. As soon as I got back, I had everybody from her friends to relatives just saying, you know, you can always pursue that as a side thing. You don't have to necessarily go to school for that. And I remember sitting in a job interview one day just thinking, damn, I've really sort of like given up on my dream to like go to film school. And then I heard about a production happening here in Uganda, and I went and auditioned for it, and I got the part, and I literally went home and said to my mom, look, I'm not going for any other job interviews. I'm going to be in this TV series. And the first thing she said was, okay, look, if you're going to put yourself on television here, I don't know, let's figure out what you can go and study. And I said, no, I'm going to commit to it. It's probably going to be my first introduction into what I think I want to do. So that's my first point, is try out what you think you want to do. You'll never know until you test it out. So I did. Eventually, I did go to film school after doing a bit of that production. And what brought me back home was I wanted to contribute to the industry here. One of the skills I learned at film school was how to edit. That was one of the first things you learned. I was doing acting for film, and they said, you must learn every angle of how a film works. So you have to learn how to edit. You have to learn how to use camera work. You basically have to understand all moving parts for a production. And when I came back, I was literally on iMovie on my Mac, and I started, with the concept of Forking Around Kampala, which was literally showcasing the restaurant scene. At the time of moving back, the influencer or content creator space was not really established. I think Kenya was much further ahead, and I learned a lot from just consuming a lot of that content. And then I literally just walked into one restaurant. One of the owners of that restaurant is here today. Holy crap, if you guys remember. And I literally went and I pitched it. And I'm like, look, I'm trying to do this new concept called Forking Around Kampala, and I just want to showcase the restaurant scene. And these 3 owners will literally just say, all right, cool, what do you need from us? And I said, look, I just need access to your space. I need some food, and I just need to start creating the content. Bearing in mind, I didn't ask for money initially. I literally just said, let me start. And I started on YouTube putting out these videos, and eventually I monetized. My next customer was Cafeteria. Walked in, I just said, I'm looking for the owner. That's also another point. You need to be confident in what you're trying to do. If you don't have that confidence or that bravery to try and shoot your shot, nobody's going to literally hand it to you. So a part of my startup was I was just bold. I was fearless. And I said, I'm going to do it. And as soon as I monetized, I realized, hold on. I was very grateful for the film industry start, but I realized I was monetizing a lot more from creating content. So Forking Around Kampala grew, and then I started attracting different brands. I started realizing my niche had to start shaping what my niche was. So with food, obviously comes culture, it comes hospitality, it comes beverages. I got partnership with Tanqueray, with UBL. So it was a sort of building block that I didn't realize, but I was learning on the job. So I think also another part of my journey and the advice I would give is you're always a student in any craft. And for me, even up until today, I'm still learning how am I sort of like building my brand, how am I shaping it, how am I attracting the right brands I want to work with. And I know that's such a wordy answer to your question.
No, it's perfect.
But I just hope that gives you some kind of insight into how I started and where I am today.
Wonderful. Very nice. Be bold, okay? Be bold. Just walk in and ask, can I meet the owner of this place? That reminds me of my TV journey because I used to work in TV and I literally love this TV show. So I was like, I'll have to meet the producer of this show. So once I asked the people who are like reporting, I was like, who's the producer of this show? And they asked me, who are you? So you really have to be bold sometimes when you're going for these opportunities because in the beginning you will be nobody. And you might be afraid to ask, but sometimes you can ask and be introduced to the owner, to the producer, to the boss of the establishment. Well done.
Mine is quite similar yet different. So I went to a school called Namasagali. If you've heard of the school Namasagali, it's a school that encouraged music, dance, and drama. And that's stuff that from primary school I loved to do. And I knew that whatever I decide to do in the future, for me to enjoy what I'm doing, to love what I'm doing, has to fall within that space. But naturally, when I was done with university and did the degree for them, I went ahead to practice. I was an accountant for some time. I hope there are no accountants here, but that was the most boring job I have ever done in my life. It was so boring that I started to do marketing in accounting. So I would get my accountants and try to convince them to do marketing things to make accounting more interesting. And they're like, you actually are misplaced. I was lucky to have the marketing team see me and say, you're one of us, brother, come over. And that for me was the introduction to the life that I love, that I live right now. So I ended up going to UBL, where I've been for a couple of years, in and out, but been there for a while. And while there, I did so many different roles until this specific role that I do now came. It actually wasn't in Uganda yet. And I tried to convince them on the purpose of that global role coming into Uganda, which involved me being the influencer of sorts and working with influencers in the brewery. And what I loved most about it is, if you look deep at being an influencer, first, it needs you to be your most authentic self. If you notice, the worst influencers, and sorry to use that, are those that are pretending to be something else. And you can see it. They are either trying too hard, or you sort of need to naturally get into it. And I was lucky that I saw the role that gets me to live normally, like be free. And that was the role I currently do. So yeah, that's how I found myself doing what I'm doing and loving it.
What I hear from both of you is one passion to the interest in what you're doing and sort of nurturing it from an earlier time. Like, you already knew I wanted to do this, even though you were doing another degree. You're like, I know where my heart and my passion is. And I think a lot of people are doing what they're passionate at, but they're not making the money, or they're not looking at it as a business, or the businesses are not looking at them as professional brands. So I want to ask you guys about the switch from being this creator and passionate creative to professionalizing your brand and work. What are the steps to making it a profession? Like, this is my day in, day out. This is my daily bread. It's like the person who does 9 to 5. I don't literally do a 9 to 5, but it's like my 9 to 5. What's your day like? So what are some of the steps that you both took to professionalize your brand and determine your value?
I think the first thing is, if you want to turn it into a business, you have to mean business. Meaning you have to package yourself ready to enter a market that is definitely competitive, that is definitely a big pool of people trying to do the same thing, and you have to figure out what sets you apart. From my world, it's packaging yourself right with a media kit, for example, understanding what that means. These days now, there's almost no excuse. You can chat GPT this stuff. You can literally say, give me the template. So whenever people are like, okay, I don't know how to do this, you can ask ChatGPT anything in the world and it will give you the answer. So packaging yourself professionally, also having boundaries. I'm at a place now, and I'd also tell any aspiring creative, nobody's going to pick up a phone and say to me, hi, Lucy, how much are you charging for a post? No, that's not how you handle business, right? It's you put in an inquiry. You have avenues in which you now deal with handling business, whether it's an email address now that you've created specifically for your business. What that also allows is things like paper trails. That allows you to now have a log where you're now going to do research when you go back and see, look, I have a lot of inquiries about this. So you structure yourself, you organize yourself and how you want to be handled and managed. You might not have a manager in the start, or a brand manager, or someone to handle all this stuff for you. Just an example, I held a creators event a few years ago, 2 years ago now, and I hosted one of the biggest influencers on the continent, Milali Ndamase. One of the gems she brought up at that creators thing was she didn't have a manager, but she was writing her emails like she had a manager. So she would respond to brands and say, sign off, Brenda, Milali's manager, whatever it is. And that's okay. Do what you have to do, but the main thing is package yourself professionally. Professionally meaning also walk the talk, keep time, sacrifice maybe some outings, which will ensure, if you're not a good timekeeper, sacrifice some outings, work on your craft, learning new skills, picking up new skills. Don't always blame the videographer, for example. I'm now in a place where I can edit my own videos. I can direct someone, this is what I want out of it. I can receive your first draft, but tweak it so that it's more me, So the long and short of it is, package yourself ready for the market, be professional, and people will take you seriously as well.
The last thing I would add is consistency. That's what we miss a lot here. Many times we come up with amazing ideas, amazing concepts, but after 2-3 times and you've noticed just one like, you give up, move on, you feel... At times if I just waiting for that consistency, and I tasted it myself on the dancing side. I had never been on TikTok for like the long, actually I'd never been on. I just used to go and watch videos. And this one time someone said, just try and be consistent for about 6 months and see how fast you'll grow. So I moved from a person who didn't even have an account to over 1,060K, in just under 6 months. And because I intentioned to have a video up every week, it was a lot of work. Of course, consistency is work. I would wake up unhappy at the thought of having to go dance for people who don't care. Half are going to abuse you, the other half are... But I had to be consistent. And for 6 months, I noticed. And like you said, at the end of the day, that consistency, that audience that you're building does convert into cash. It does. I'm amazed when, even now with my serious corporate side, I still get calls. Hey, can you come and dance for us? Can you come? I'm like, guys, I'm a serious guy. They're like, no. But because I was consistent then and built that audience. So consistency is really important as well.
To what extent has social media driven your agenda, driven your business? Because influencer entrepreneurship is more than just the social media. There's a lot more that you need to work on. For instance, you talked about networks. Like when you came to UG, Kampala, you were like, what is it that is not being done in our market? You did your research. You went out to the restaurants to meet the people. So it's not as easy as waking up, doing a post, but there's a whole lot of stuff that needs to be done to complement the work that goes onto the social media. And of course, there could also be other platforms that you use to leverage the work that you do. For instance, there could be a podcaster who's also big on social media, or a podcaster who's not big on social media, but they're still getting gigs. And Roy, you know that very well. The kind of influencers you guys are working with, I would assume, are very broad. There are some people who are big on one platform and they're not big on another platform. So
if I go back at the brewery where I work at UBL, digital marketing, I think it now has almost the highest budgets in anything that we do, because we know it reaches a wide audience.
Yes.
And our target market, which is almost everyone's target market, this for us, I assume here we're all above 18. So most of us are looking for 18 to at least 40-year-olds. Those are the guys who are most likely active on social media. And that's where they are. They're on social media. So you want to make sure that whatever content you're doing is on the right platforms. When you ask about platforms, I feel like that depends on your craft or your content. Personally, I find Instagram a very good platform because a lot of what I do is visual. And it's more of a video. I like telling through stories. Storytelling is really what I focus on. But those that like writing, I know a number of people that love to pen down some beautiful words, which I will not have time for. Those guys are heavy on Twitter, and I'm happy for them. But you rarely find me on Twitter. So I think even as a creative, it's important to know what
works for you.
What works for you. Who listens? Where is your audience? And even the times. I learned that very recently, that even the time you post. I didn't know that. I thought I wake up whatever time, put it up. But you need to know if my audience is the corporate, they're working 8 to 5. So their only break is a lunch break. Do you want to grab them at the lunch break?
Yes.
So there's a lot of science in there. But
I would say that, and look at social media is literally your billboard, guys. So you have your brand, which is your story. It's what people correlate you to when they see you. What do they see? Do they see travel? Do they see lifestyle? How does it make them feel? And then you go into the marketing of it. So you go and you come up with strategies and you think, okay, we need to do a campaign if it's from the corporate space or from, you come up with all these marketing strategies. And then where do you put it? You put it on a digital marketing platform, social media, right? The difference is today we have a billboard that now has people actively telling you what they think of all your ideas and campaigns, right?
Yes.
So, there's some harsh people who give feedback on stuff, and then there's you can build a really great supportive community. So it's a double-edged sword of sorts. But the main thing is it gets your message across and much faster and much wider, which is why I think back to Ron's point, digital marketing instead have some of the biggest budgets because they realize they can reach a much wider and specific demographic to who they're targeting now. So that's already a win. You're able to speak to who you want to speak to. You have a brand that is tailored to whether it's travel or whether it's, I don't know, entertainment. And you've built a community that follows you specifically for that niche. And so you can speak directly to your consumer. So social media, 100%, it's a fantastic thing. I don't know anyone today who is, whether it's entering business or it's a pastime, everybody these days is on social media. You almost can't avoid it. And I think also COVID was a time which showed us that the importance of having an online presence. I don't think social media is something I personally will always be on for the rest of my life. But I do know that whether I get off social media, but I have businesses, I know they will rely on that reach that social media would give. So I definitely think there's a lot more pros than cons.
Talking about chasing the bag, we're trying to make this a business and trying to make ends meet at the end of the day, at the end of the month. How do you balance that between making sure you're paid and satisfying the asks of your clientele or brands that reach out to you, and balancing your authenticity and what your community and audience are used to?
The first thing is, I think one of the points we touched on earlier was being authentic and being transparent to yourself. And I think it's okay to have moments where you pivot. Maybe a life experience has changed your viewpoint on something now. So long as you can be transparent with translating that to your community, I'm sure they'll understand. I've seen a lot of people go through, let's say, I don't know, I could be a crazy food critic that just sits and reviews the best steaks all over, and then I wake up one day and I'm vegan. And that's it, and I switch, and that's all I'm going to do. Now, I owe my community who started following me, watching my food reviews, some kind of explanation of why this transition happened. So I think transition is okay. It's good. It's natural. It's normal. But once you're on a social media platform and you've built a loyal audience, to some degree, it's okay to also share that transitional process and in your own time when you're ready. Right now, you work with brands who literally say you have to disclose that this is a paid partnership. Now, I don't think your audience will look at it as, okay, that's an ad and that's what it is, so long as you've been creating content authentically and it sort of resonated. Because by the time a brand approaches you to market their products, they've seen some kind of alignment with what you've been creating. So it's more of a win. Your community should be happy that, look, you're getting booked, you're getting paid. And that support is essentially why you have got these gigs. So as long as you're able to be transparent and also not taking on gigs that are not true to you. Not every check is a good check. Even if you're starting, even if you're hustling, it's not every check is a good check. That can also plummet your career as quick as it built you. So I think it's worth also understanding what are your goals, what are your values, and how you don't compromise on that throughout.
So many times as influencers, I've seen a number asking to work with brands. And if you go to ask a brand for work and the brand not asking you for work, you have sort of lost a certain age. A brand picks an influencer that is going to grow the brand, not grow the influencer. I don't know if you get that. Many times when we go asking brands, you want to attach to, let's say, Johnny Walker, because Johnny Walker is cool and it's up there and they are global. So you're trying to fit into Johnny Walker. If you focus a lot on creating you, Johnny Walker comes to you. And I say this because I think, because I'm on the other side, I know you, and I know you have not come to the brand. The brand has always come to you because you've created an authentic person. We know that when Lucy is going to talk about forking around, it's not because someone has paid her to do it. It's because it's authentically you. And if everyone took on that approach, remember the bit around consistency? Just be consistent. Where we get a little too impatient and we think it's been 5 years. 5 years is a long time. It's been 1 year and I'm doing the same thing and I'm giving up. But the point when you're giving up is when people are discussing you in a boardroom somewhere, saying that person, they've been consistent and they've worked with the right brands. They are not losing themselves. They are staying true to who the brand is. Then they'll pick you. Then you'll have the upper hand.
But I'm going to add something for you guys to talk about collaboration, because you're talking about the brands know who the authentic storytellers are. But how can I, as an authentic storyteller, reach out to the brand? How does that collaboration come about? Does it have to be one way? And how can it be two way? And for you, Lucy, how do you also collaborate with other creatives at your work?
I was just going to add to something Roy said about reaching out to the brand. So an advice I'd give to a creator, let's say, that wants to work with Johnny Walker or whatever, you could start creating content around, let's say, drink experiences or whatever it is. And you can sort of lure that brand in, or they might identify you and say, you know what, they would work for this next campaign, without necessarily pitching yourself and feeling like, man, I just shot myself in the foot, you know? But in terms of collaboration, for me, I think collaboration is very powerful, whether that's with videographers, photographers, giving them credit when they want to, but also doing it not aggressively. I think sometimes you can find these creatives who are a bit too aggressive and desperate for, like, I need that collaboration.
Yeah.
But there's ways in which you can approach fellow creatives and like, look, I have this vision. How can we work together? Maybe they have a vision as well. And then you can lend a hand with your skill to them, and maybe they can do it in reverse to you. So there's also a bit of like just sacrifice, I think, as well. You might not have the same vision on one project, but your worlds may align on different ones and bring you together. But also importantly, the impact it has on showcasing the talent of Africa or the region, East Africa or Uganda. By the time you have a successful campaign with a stylist, a photographer, a videographer, all these heads coming together to put out some content, I mean, it creates magic, but also it really showcases the talent we have in the country. And I think it's a ripple effect on whether it's future opportunities that come into Uganda and they've identified, we remember you from this shoot you did with so-and-so and so-and-so. But also giving your fellow creatives their flowers. If you get a gig from someone else's collaboration, you don't owe them anything, at least on my end, but you can give them a call just to be like, look, that collaboration we did, it got me this. And, you know, you're able to track each other's wins and support each other through it. So I think collaborations are fantastic for everyone.
You think about marketing strategy right now in every company that looks to grow. Influencer marketing is a major topic of theirs. Every company is thinking, how do I get my brand more personal? And one of the ways to do it is through influencers. Yeah. So this company, I just want us to all know that they're always discussing. They're always thinking about someone. So the real question is, how do you make sure it's you they're thinking about? Yeah. And the only way to do that, and I like what Lucy here said, in Uganda, we say kwetega. Yeah? It's like, put yourself there to be seen.
Put yourself out there.
Yes, put yourself out there. Jitume, I think.
Yeah, Jitume.
Yeah. There's a friend of mine in Kenya who told me that's Jitume. So Jitume. There's a way you can do Jitume or Kwetega and be seen.
Yeah.
And very clearly, if, like she said, if it's Johnny Walker, if it's any brand, if it's a cosmetic brand, are you doing things in that line that show your interest and your expertise and your level of knowledge in that field? It's also not enough to just say, this is nice. Oh, you guys, I'm so happy with this. No. How much more are you adding? Brands are looking for people that will grow their brand.
Yeah.
Remember, again, the brand must see that it's growing through you, not you through them. So once you put yourself in that space, you will be picked. They are talking about you every day.
How do you rate the scene right now in Uganda, the influencer scene?
Like, people are not exactly going out of their way to actually think beyond what their neighbor has done. If you looked at a lot of content today, as long as you can say, hey, that looks like Epas's content. Oh, that looks like Lucy's content. Then most likely you are not doing anything creative. I feel like we've gotten comfortable. And if you even notice, we're working with the same influencers every day, everywhere for different brands. I keep thinking about a group of influencers I met a long time ago in Ghana. There was a lady we approached. I used to work for Jumia at that time. So we approached a lady in Ghana, a fashionista, but she had 2 friends. And she told us from the word go, before you sign me, you sign my 2 friends. We're like, what do you mean? We want you. She's like, I'm a package. We come 3. So she already set her standard. And when we signed her and her 3 friends, all their content was about how the 3 friends meet and choose to buy drinks online and choose to have dinners together. And it actually made sense. And she was consistent. In there, she had the fashion houses that wanted her because when the friends meet, they have to look good. And they were selling themselves together. No one else was doing that there. Everyone else was on what a number of us do now. Oh my God, take this, fantastic. You love it, I love it. You're like, come on, guys. That is not you. That is now acting and boring acting. So there's really opportunity for us to just go back to the basics. Go back to the basics and start afresh. You'll see a whole lot of creativity if you're just being you.
So what you're saying, there's a lot of room
Definitely
to sign up more creatives and influencers. You're looking for them.
I won't even say sign up. There's more room for creatives to be more creative. Then they will be seen. Sorry, if I was harsh, I apologize.
You are very harsh. But let me say something to that. Speaking from this end, right?
Yeah.
My challenge is also let's speak maybe from the breweries or whoever it is in sort of the similar position. Anyone hiring influencers, you work usually with agencies. And the agencies, these marketing agencies, I think are part of also some of the issues you're talking about. It turns into a very transactional, are the 4 posts up per month, than what are the 4 posts even about? Where are the briefs to these creators, where they sit down and say, let's have this angle for this month or next month. I don't think influencers are having enough support today. I challenge the marketing agencies because essentially that's what their job is. You've handed over the load to them, you've given them the strategy, and they're meant to then carry that on, and the messaging starts from them and then below, and then they support the creators. Because if it's just about how can people still be mixing drinks, say drink whatever it is, because then you're not promoting bartenders or mixologists. You've hired an influencer who likes to showcase experiences to show that. But if their ideas are so boxed together, I understand what you're saying. The things we keep seeing are like the same. There needs to be some kind of like restructuring or re-strategy where these influencers get some more support from the people at the top in control, the people who hire them, the people who do reviews. Because it's not enough to just tick the deliverables and then the agency comes back to you and says, yep, they're finished, we need payment, and that's it. There has to be reporting. There has to be data analysis. There has to be more. I think they deserve more as well.
So I agree. Agencies have a role. They really do. Actually, it comes from the hiring companies, the ones that hire the agencies. Yeah. They have a role to have a clear brief. They keep telling us garbage in, garbage out. If I give you a terrible brief, then when it comes down to the influencer, they'll deliver terrible work. But that said, we also need to think about our personal brands. You as an individual, you don't want to be the one that they're always associating with terrible work because of a terrible brief. You should be able to demand. I mean, if they tell you I want 4 posts, those can be your 4 best posts in life. They don't have to be tick box posts because they've told you there are 4. Give them the best and add 1 for equal measure and tell them, I've given you a 5th. Think about that. That's what I wanted to do. I've had a few of the influencers do that actually. They'll give you your 4 that you demanded and then add 1 that is their style. And they're like, even if you don't like it, that was my style. And many times that's the style we wanted. So don't let yourself get bogged down by a bad brief. Remember, again, we are coming to you for you, not you coming to us. So be you. If you're you and you still create an amazing you, it'll always go well, I believe.
Can we talk about scaling outside?
If you create your content in a way that it takes you beyond borders, and you don't have to go on a plane to have content beyond borders. Think of musicians. Many times you'll hear your song, if it's a good song, it's played in, earlier on they're talking about checking your statistics, and then you look at some of the dashboards, it will show you your song is big in Kenya, Tanzania, the US, the UK, maybe it's Ugandans in those countries listening to them, but also chances are Ugandan listened with a Kenyan and a Jamaican next to them and they loved your song.
Yeah.
So it goes back to what content are you creating and your vision as well, your vision for yourself. If you see yourself in a local setting, then you'll most likely remain in that local setting. If you're targeting 10 people to listen to your content, then 10 people is who you'll get. But if you choose what I'm creating is going to be needed in different countries. Then it starts to cross borders.
Yeah.
Then people in Kenya want to have you doing tourism. I saw the other day, I think Anne Kansime going to do tourism in Kenya for Kenya, things like that.
And I'm going to ask you a question based on what you've said. Like, how do you make sure that the onboarding is robust enough for the influencer? Because sometimes I know how it works in our industry. Like, you can literally receive a message or an email from an agency like, can you sign this and we need this to roll next week. So I do understand that sometimes things have to go really fast, and I don't know, you're trying to clear budgets and you're like, who's going to do this very fast? But what's the ideal way of onboarding influencers and content creators? Like, what do you guys do at the organization?
So where I work, we are privileged to have global teams that actually work on influencer marketing. So for starters, we have codes, we have guidelines on how you do marketing, digital marketing with us. Every influencer we sign up, the first thing you do is sign a special letter. And in there are those clear guidelines on these are the do's and these are the don'ts. We have a marketing code that guides us, that also we take our influencers through. Actually, every 3 months, we have calls with them just to remind them of what our do's and don'ts are. We also go a step further to do brand immersions. So the minute we are done with taking you through the do's and don'ts, the legal documentation, we take you through a brand immersion where we get you to understand what the brand is, how to enjoy it, who we are talking to. We just unpack that brand for you so that when we pull back, even you, without the bad management of an agency, are able to say, based off what I've trained, what I've learned, these are the rules and regulations. But on the other side, I also think it's important for every influencer to have your personal guidelines. There's an MC I know that even briefing her, she comes with a list of how you're going to brief her. So by the time she's MCing, she does such an amazing job because she has asked all the questions. I'm always amazed. Sometimes I MC and when I'm with her, I'm thinking, I'll do things off head. But she's like, no. Number one, who are the important people? When are they coming in? What must we do? Am I okay saying this? Are there any slogans in the company? Can I dress this way? Can I do this? And they want to have 2 meetings before the actual MCing gig. She has asked you 300 questions. By the time she comes up, she's going to deliver an amazing job. So we need to borrow from such experiences. Don't always think of what are they going to do for me. Think of even me. What will I do for myself? How do I prepare myself to offer the best?
Okay, so we want to open up the floor to your questions.
My name is Virginia, culture test maker, a podcaster. The podcast is called How's the Weather? I'm also a music A&R. So I want to first go back to when you people were talking about influencers. To start with, I'm not a great fan of the word influencers because of how it has been said, how it has been carried around. So first, I wanted to ask, when you're choosing influencers, like, let's say for your brand, do you consider ethics or do you consider the emotional reasonings rather than reach? Because I think when you are talking about how content is made and how it's now pretty much the same, I think our problem is we just need to reframe what influence is, just like you joked about authenticity. Because when someone says, oh, this is what works, and we know how Ugandans work, let's be honest, very bandwagon. So it's like, oh, this is what works. Because when I see someone is doing what works and that's what the system is awarding, I'm definitely going to try that. So I think we need to reframe what that is so that we can be able to build a sustainable and well-paying system.
Yes.
Then my second question is, how do you influencers plan to intentionally use music, Ugandan music to be specific, in your content? So like I said, I'm a music A&R.
It's actually more about impact than about metrics. So you ask a good question. It's not about how many followers you have. Even to date, I think, and when you go back to agencies, it might be the agencies that are spoiling the field now. Most of them tell us, this person has 1 million followers. And like I had earlier, I think the panel before, they're saying, so you could have bought those 1 million followers. Some of them are not real. No one is responding. For us, we look more at the impact of your influence. Yes, so even if you have 1,000 followers, and I think that's the same example they gave. I said if 500 of them are reacting, are responding, are engaging, then you are the actual influencer that we're looking for. Not 1 million with one like, which might be your own personal like. Yeah? It's really impact. It's impact, not numbers. Yeah.
I mean, music is a huge part of content you put out. It impacts how the video makes you feel. It maybe resonates with it. I even pay for like music platforms that I can use as non-copyright, for example, for like YouTube, for example. But 1,000%, I think with also these artists are now also reaching out to creators to use their music. That's also a whole other industry that's come up now, where beyond even just like TikTok, or they're engaging with creators' content. I think I've seen even Joshua Baraka, he collaborates with a few creators. If they've used his music, doesn't matter the engagement or the numbers. But I think it's also both ways. We definitely should utilize more of our music in our content. I know Afrobeats and West African music just goes viral everywhere. But I also think the last 2 years we've done good. I think with this immersion of new talent coming up, the sound is changing. One of the biggest complaints is that our music was just sounding the same. There was a certain beat in every Ugandan song that you just know would not hit with the kind of content you're putting out. But, you know, I do a lot of like tribal content, so I try to incorporate more like local music when I'm doing any like, let's say, cultural kind of content, or even if it's like food content. I recently discovered this girl, Melissa Murungi, I think her name is. I love her music. And I hear she's not even based here, but her sound is different. It was fantastic. And so I think it's definitely putting their music out more, but also we owe it to them to also research more. The same effort we put into utilizing all this music from, whether it's the States or the UK or wherever, we need to do the same for us. So I totally agree with you.
I would like to add something and say that I think as we try to use more of our own music, let's also make sure we have the permission to, because I've seen in Kenya situations where creatives, content creators use music from certain artists to promote a video that was paid by a brand, and then the artist came for them. It's like you are paid by Diageo to promote something and you use my music as a backdrop, but you didn't even ask me, you didn't get the permission. So as a publicist, I'll tell you for sure, like a lot of artists, you can ask them like, oh, can I use this song? And it will be fine. And I've received a lot of creators reaching out to us sometimes saying, could you ask this specific artist if it's okay for me to use their song for this video? So I think it's important to use our own music, but also it's important to make sure that you're safe and you're not using music and then you're being sued for whatever. If you do that, there's no way anyone is going to sue you. So I think it's also about collaborating with the A&Rs like you, the publicists, the managers, and find out who are the artists who have the new tracks, how can we incorporate them in the content that we're producing.
Good afternoon to the panelists and to everyone here.
Good afternoon.
My name is Lucas Black. I am an artist, a rapper, a singer. I'm also a podcaster. I have a podcast that talks about professional wrestling, the African Wrestling Podcast.
Oh my God, so interesting.
Yeah, I've been here in the conversation. It's very nice. And I just have two questions. I belong to a community of artists called Bantu Vibes. And we have tried to have this thing where we bring up communities of creatives. We have spoken about creatives creating their own communities of fans, followers. But I just wanted to see what you guys' opinions were on the importance or the potential impact of creative communities. Does that create a sense of legitimacy to the public? Or is it something which maybe we should invest but cautiously? And the second question comes to the attitudes towards money and collaboration. My question is, how would you advise an upcoming artist like myself on what attitude I should have towards not only investing in my career, yes, but investing in the collaborations that I make? Because when I'm approaching a videographer, I know that he puts a lot into his money. If I want to go and use Trroy Studios, I understand that their facilities are not for free, they're not maintained for free. How do I approach that? I know that I have to step out, but I know that I am limited by what I may have to offer.
When you talked about, I guess, the financial restrictions you might have with, let's say you're trying to shoot a video, I think one of the challenges I've seen, let's say you have your friend Joe, who's a really sick videographer but doesn't own equipment, so he has a cost to incur to come and do this collaboration. Maybe there's avenues you can explore of how can we maybe split the cost of renting that equipment, for instance, because you're both benefiting. And I think that's the first thing to understand. A collaboration is coming together. How do you all benefit from this partnership, right? You need a music video to shoot. What does Joe need out of this? He maybe needs something for his portfolio. What does the stylist need? Trroy Studios, you can pitch to Trroy and say, look, I'm upcoming. This is my story, and I just need a space for 1 hour. They might not give you that Saturday morning that you want, but if they're going to give you that Wednesday evening, that's a sacrifice you make to get your vision out. So I always say there's ways around these things, and you just have to keep trying and see how much support you can get with that. In terms of like creatives coming together to create that content, I think it's fantastic. If there's 4 of us, it doesn't have to be in the same industry. Could be a musician, a foodie, a cinematographer, whatever it is. All get together and sit. It could even just be an afternoon of just sitting and exchanging. And what are your frustrations in your industries? Like, how do we come together to strengthen us or help us together? It's not just about sitting and we're all food influencers talking about this restaurant is not giving me the gig. No. How do we all come together? That restaurant might give you the gig if you're coming to the restaurant, for example. If you're going to do some kind of event there that allows them to benefit maybe in some way. So it's important to try and exhaust all options, but more heads together, you're almost guaranteed to find a solution. So I definitely believe in all coming together and sitting down and sharing in your frustrations and not looking at it more of like competition. You're all coming together to find ways to monetize. At the end of the day, everybody has rent to pay, food to eat. So you all have the same goal, and you have to remember that how do we all support each other in benefiting at the end of the day?
I think, Lucas, one thing you should always be thinking about, we call it the triple win. What is the win for you, the win for whoever you're collaborating with, and the win for the audience, whoever you're speaking to? So, for example, when you talk about maybe you want to come to Trroy Studios and you don't have the money, the question is, how are you going to help Trroy Studios get to an audience? And I've seen it happen many times. People asking, oh, I need rehearsal space. We're going to work together. And you say, fine, come, here is space. Like you say, there are bills also that they are paying. You come through, you do your amazing rehearsal, and that's the last time we hear from you. Many times creatives are in a space where I've done my part, is where you see it from your angle, so to speak. You're only thinking selfishly at that point. You're only thinking, I want to come, I want to use space, but I'm going to go elsewhere, and that's where I'll do my events. Those are the people I'll partner with. Those are the real. You forget where you came from. If we thought about it differently, if I'm working with anyone, normally the first question is, you're doing all this for a purpose. And that purpose in business normally is to earn money. Even now, with all our amazing creative juices, we know that the end goal is for you to make money. Otherwise, you will not leave everything you're doing to be creative. The advantage is because you're creative and they keep telling us, do something you love so much so that when you're doing it, you feel like you're not working. That is me right now. My job, I feel like I'm not working. I've seen a colleague of mine there. I don't want her to hear me say this. I feel like I'm not working because I love what I'm doing. But the day they tell me, for what you love doing, we're not going to pay you a salary for 1 month, I will stand up and leave that thing. That's how we need to be thinking. At the end of the day, it's money. What does money mean to you? Who gives you money? It's your audience.
Because you asked about collaboration, like how do I work with my dream team if I can't afford everyone? I think it's important for us creatives to also look at our work and ourselves as moving value. So I might not have the money to pay you, but what do I have to offer you? So it's important to make the people you want to collaborate with understand. So for instance, you can be like, I really like that creative videographer or director, but I cannot afford to pay him. But I want to work with him on a project and hopefully pitch to Diageo and get the money. So you can approach someone and even be like, let's collaborate on creating content because you already have the equipment. I have the idea. And then once we get gigs, we are splitting 50-50. So if that's an agreement that you've made upfront and probably signed it, you need to sign because there are many of those kind of word-to-word conversations. And then when somebody gets the dough, they disappear. But if you approach it professionally as a business and sign something, you can be able to do this kind of collaborations because collaboration is not entirely transactional. In Swahili and in Kenya, we say it's nipe nikupe. Give me and I give you. So as an artist, what value do you have that the other person doesn't have? Even a videographer, you can be like, shoot my content and you come free to all my concerts. That is value. So I think all of us in the room, we need to look at ourselves and be like, what do I have to offer? You are a manager. Your artist is your value. That's the thing you can pawn around. You might not have the money to pay people, but you can be like, give us money for this and I can have my artist come and perform for you at a private gig. Why not? Like one of the artists in Kenya, I was doing PR for, and I really loved him. He's called Costa Ojwang, and I really wanted him to be out there. So I actually booked him to perform at my daughter's birthday when nobody knew him, and I paid him. It wasn't so much because he wasn't a huge artist, but like, I don't mind paying a couple of Kenya shillings to have this artist. And now he's so big. So the last time I met him, he asked me, when was the other birthdays? I never heard from you. And I was like, I didn't bother to call you because now I cannot afford you. But he was like, please, I'm happy to perform at your daughter's birthday anytime, just because you saw the value in me when I wasn't the person I am. So it's about seeing value in other creatives and seeing what you can better and then growing together. Any last words as we wrap up, both of you?
I was just going to add to one of the things you were saying. So one of the things the breweries does when they onboard creators is they kind of give you a brief on like, you know, now we're in a very heightened, like a sensitive time where anything you say could be misconstrued or whatever. So for example, if I'm about to start marketing Johnny Walker, I can't start my video with like, oh my God, I was dying for a drink all week. I was catching up with the guys. Even just using dying with an alcohol brand, already Diageo can come at UBL here and say, what kind of briefs are you giving your creators? Already they're trying to get you guys off of like the marketing and stuff. Or you can't use, I don't know, live fast, die young kind of song, and you're off to the beach to celebrate something that's sponsored by an alcohol beverage, for example. You have to be so mindful, even with the kind of music choices you use. You also have to understand what is the song saying before you just even utilize it for content. Just because it's trending doesn't mean it actually makes sense to the kind of content you're putting out. It can actually do more harm than good. So I think we also have to be a bit more like aware and sensitive of like trying to understand what is the music about and how is it linking to the content you're putting out and what are the impacts of it. Again, back to this word influencer, I think I hate it.
There's more to it.
Yeah, there's way more to it. A content creator puts in so much work. They may become influential in their space, in what they promote. And I think that's what you should look to strive more. Like, stop thinking so much about the numbers or the follower count, but look at just creating something that will last, something that impacts people off social media as well. When they see you, are you walking the talk of what you're putting out on social media? Are they coming to you as a voice that is trustworthy, even off, you know, the online platforms? So
where can they find you on social media?
I'm everywhere. I'm on Instagram as Lucy Smiles, on TikTok as Lucy Smiles. My YouTube is Lucy Bunyenyezi. My ex is Lucy Smiles. Yeah, I'm everywhere.
Being influential is really not about fame. Many think get the most famous person and they're influential. No, they are visible and maybe people will see. But the term influence is getting people to appreciate or to do things that you're doing because of you. So it's about trust capital. People need to trust you as a person. So for you to be a good content creator, make sure you're winning the trust of your audience. Yeah. And I think earlier on you talked about value. You need to be giving value. You need to be of value. Once you tick all those boxes, I think your journey into the creative space as a content creator will only get better by the day.
Thank you guys so much. For me, it's very short and sweet. Just start today. If you're asking questions about where to start, how to start, just ChatGPT that and start today. I've been your host and moderator, Anyiko Owoko, music publicist from Nairobi, Kenya. You can follow me on @Anyiko Owoko or my company @Anyiko PR. We've come to the end of our amazing panel, which was about mastering the art of influencer entrepreneurship in business.
Thank you so much, Uganda, Kampala, for always welcoming me with open arms. It was an honor for me to be back at AUMEX for a second time, and I hope our collaboration continues. I'm very thankful to have talked to Lucy Smiles and Roy about influencer entrepreneurship. Some people actually mentioned at the end of this conversation that they don't like the word influencer because a digital creator is a creator, period. The influence actually comes much later. But what we were discussing is what is important is not just the influence or the numbers, but the impact. Today's panel and episode explored how content creators are stepping into entrepreneurship, designing brands that are both authentic and strategic, and navigating what it really takes to thrive in the intersection of culture, creativity, and commerce. I hope if you're listening, you got something that is going to inspire the brand that you're creating, and it's going to help you drive the brand into a profitable business. Remember, building your presence isn't just about creating content, but it's about creating impact, value, and opportunities that last. That is where we end the episode this week, right here on VIP Access. Thank you so much for your time and just being part of this community from day one. Remember, this is season 5 of VIP Access. I see everyone who's been rocking with us from season 1. If you'd like to go back and listen to the past episodes, they're amazing, featuring artists from all over the continent. There are over 100 artists who've been featured on this podcast since we started 4 seasons ago. Remember, if you have any feedback, comments, suggestions, would like us to have a specific event and topic around the industry, leave your feedback with us right here on our channels, or you can follow Anyiko TV, Anyiko PR, or Anyiko Owoko, my personal platforms. We'll see your comment and we'll make sure we put in some work. Thank you so much again for your time, and see you next week for yet another amazing conversation around Industry Talk series. Ciao, ciao.
This episode of VIP Access is proudly supported by AUMEX Uganda, amplifying Uganda's music industry.